Hi everyone, welcome back to a Friday video. I am a little bit emotional right now, and I'll tell you about why in a second. But first of all, I want to say that today's topic is a suggestion from one of you guys on my Instagram story. So I posted a little Instagram stories today asking me what you guys kind of struggle with, and I'm gonna write down all the answers and try to get inspiration for new videos from your answers later the next couple of weeks. So if there's been a topic that you've been wanting me to talk about, or a question or a fun idea, just make sure to go to my Instagram page, which is just my name, and to just type in my story a question you have or a topic request for a video. And so one of the topics that was already requested that I thought, yes, this is so much fun, is a day in the life of me recovering. So I'm going to take you guys today through what a day in my life would used to look like when I was recovering, and kind of like in the moments where I kind of really felt like I had the hang of what I needed to do to get better and to overcome my anxiousness, my existential dread, my DPDR. And the reason why I'm a little bit emotional right now is because in order to make sure that I got it right, that I was actually saying the right things, I picked up my, sorry, I might cry, but I picked up my journal from that time, and and I haven't read it since because I didn't realize that I still had it. But I thought I must have a journal from that time, um, where I kind of wrote down stuff that I had done, and I actually found one. And there's not a lot of stuff written down there, and I think I'm not going to share too much from the journal because I want to make a video for you guys next week, where I really read through my journal entries from when I was struggling the most, and you can really see this trajectory of me really struggling, and then at the end just feeling so much better. And it's just so nice to read because it's been so long and I talk about this stuff so much, but I just feel so much compassion for that girl in 2019 that was going through that, because she was really struggling and she was really trying so hard, and I could just read that as I was going through this journal again. And yeah, it just made me feel like like I was kind of back there, and it was just very beautiful to read. And so, sorry about the tears. I might read like a small little piece here and there. Um, but what today's video really will be about is what a day in my life used to look like when I was really starting to recover and do well, and the kind of do's and don'ts that come with that. Um, and so I, so what my day would look like was I would wake up in the morning pretty early, and my first thing that would happen was that reality would hit me in the face, basically, which is something that I guess you guys also experience. I remember waking up quite early. So when I was going through this was in the summer, and I've always said this before, but I was quite lucky because I was in college at the time, and so I had my summer break, but I was working, so I did have like a summer job. Um, so I was not like full time constantly like in school or working, so I had more time to like really work on my mental health, which I'm like now looking back very grateful for, but at the same time I also did have a job. So what my day would look like was I would wake up in the morning, I would have reality hit me in the face. I would take a moment um to just get my thoughts in a row. And then I would probably go downstairs, have like a quick glass of water, and the first thing I would always do is go on a run. I've run like the last 10 years of my life probably, so I've been running a very long time. So I would just go outside immediately. I would try to run in nature. And as I was running, I would always listen to a podcast because at that time I did not trust where my mind would go on its own yet. And I do admit that I think, a lot of existential anxiety and DPDR can kind of have OCD-like patterns sometimes, so like very obsessive. And I think my compulsion was listening to podcasts at the time, probably as some of your compulsion is to listen or watch my videos or recovery stories. Um, and for me, so it was podcasts because that's also something I realized from reading my journals. I had no idea what was actually going on. Like I remember like I just read, for example, if I was like writing down all my symptoms and I wrote down, I hope this absent feel like that this feeling absent in my brain goes away. That's how I described DPDR, derealization or depersonalization, like the feeling of absence in my brain. And I felt so bad for myself when I read that because I had no idea what was going on with me. And part of that was really good because if I would have looked up DPDR online and seen all the negative stuff, I probably would have panicked more. So the fact that I did not realize what was actually going on was probably pretty good. But at the same time, yeah. Poor little Robin in 2019. But anyways, so I would obsessively listen to podcasts, and the podcast that I would listen to the most would be Super Soul Conversations by Oprah. And the reason why I listened to this podcast the most was because she talks about spirituality and mindfulness in such a approachable way. Like everything she discussed on that podcast, all the guests that she interviewed, just made everything so lighthearted and approachable. And for me, that was just like a breath of fresh air because it made me make space for the topics I was really struggling with, like all the existential dread and fear. But at the same time, it was made space for in a very lighthearted way. So it was nothing too heavy. And so the do's I would do would be listening to podcasts that really were in line with what I was kind of struggling with, like the meaning of life, fear, or mind, or negative thinking, all of that. But the don'ts would be so to not just go in obsessive DPDR spiral. Like I was never listening to podcasts on anxiety, or I was never listening to podcasts on dissociation. I was listening to podcasts on how to quiet down our minds, how to be in connection with life, how to like find a higher purpose in life. Like it was more mindful slash spiritual than it was mental health related. And I think that really personally for me helped because it just put me in this more aware, more like spiritual place, which kind of transcended my anxiety a little bit instead of fight my anxiety. It's Einstein who once said that you can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that gave rise to the problem. So if you fight anxiety with an anti-anxiety podcast, you are still living on the same level of anxiety. Whereas if you are listening to podcasts on just kind of understanding our brain in general or understanding our mind in general, or even going to that place of connection to life around us, you are transcending your anxiety and you're solving it from a higher level of consciousness. So that's kind of what I would do in the morning, listening to those podcasts over and over again. Sometimes I would listen to three in a row, go on like a really long run of like 1.5 hours just to like, because I didn't want to get back home and stop listening to the podcast. But then I would get home and then I would say there's two phases. So there was a phase in my recovery where I had not discovered meditation yet. And there's a phase where I had discovered meditation. And that phase shift came when I really started getting into Buddhism a lot. Like I started reading Thich Nhat Hanh. I started listening to these podcasts, kind of finding other spiritual teachers. And so I'm kind of going to describe what I would do once I did find meditation. I would come home, take a shower, sit down, and just have like 20 minutes of meditation. I would always do the same types of meditation, mindfulness meditation, and really sitting with my fear and embracing it. Um, a lot of those, the ones I did, I have in my recovery course. So you can always have a look at that if you want to do the exact same meditations that I used to do. And so that really helped me kind of get grounded in the morning and get started on my day. And it didn't mean that once my morning routine was over, that now I was like, oh, I'm fully at peace. Like the moment I would leave the house to go to work, all the dread would come back and I'd just be in it again. But at least I had started my morning on a positive note with like some ideas or um, focus point to go through the rest of my day with. And that's important to note because it's not because you're doing a meditation in the morning that the rest of your day is going to be perfect. What you do is in the morning, you plant a seed of positivity, a seed of peace, and then throughout the day, that seed kind of grows a little bit. And if you do that every day, after a couple of months, your seed's grown into this beautiful peace plant, but you're not going to just, fix your anxiety just like that in the morning. And so what I would do then was I would just do what I would always do. So in that case, it was on the days I was working, I would just go to work. I would just do what I had to do. I have some entries in my journal of me like writing that like was really trying to focus on the positive. Like one thing I noticed from my journal is that I would only write down the things that were going well. I would also write down the struggles, but I would try to formulate them in a more positive way. And that's something that I really, really emphasize on a lot in our recovery community is it's so important to share positive progress and focus on what's going well to kind of reprogram the way your brain is looking at life. Because if you're always writing down how terrible you feel, that's all you're focusing on, and it's not really giving you a positive outlook on life. Um, so as I was like working and stuff, I worked at a coffee shop and I would try to just really be present with the customers. The don'ts of it, so again, do's and don'ts. The don'ts is I would not work and always be trying to focus on my thoughts and always be trying to focus on my feelings. The do's was I was focusing on trying to be present with the task in front of me. So if I was serving a customer, I would try to really serve the customer as best as I could, make the best possible cup of coffee, try to have genuine conversation and just really focus on the task in front of me. So it would bring me back into this surrendered state of mind and this surrendered way of living, which I talk about a lot. It's so important to just surrender to life as it comes. So that's what I would do. On the days I wouldn't work, I think probably are the days I also struggled the most because you have most time to just be in your head. So I would try to either like go into the city or have like meet up with friends or do something. I never isolated myself. I never stayed home when I was anxious, just because I knew I had to. I just intuitively knew I just have to keep living my life the way I was living it before. I have to make space for my emotions, but I do not have to rearrange my entire life completely around my emotions. So that's kind of how I would live my days is just doing exactly what I would do before, just taking some extra time to make space for my emotions and plant those little seeds of my recovery, basically. Um, and another do that I wrote down here, another thing I would do was throughout my day. So my genuine rule would be just do meditation once a day or twice a day, maybe in the evening as well, but don't do it the whole day. Don't obsessively go back to the same podcast because then you're just like you're using it as a compulsion. So what I would take through my day was the kindness to the fear. So if I was working, for example, and I would feel this huge wave of fear come up, I would like just be very kind to it. I might have like gone to the bathroom, placed my hand on my heart, and just said, I'm here. I see you. It's okay. Thank you for protecting me, but we're gonna get back to work. It's gonna be okay. I'm here for you. So just be super, super kind to the fear and just understand it was trying to protect me and it wasn't trying to hurt me. Same with the dissociation. If I was working, I would get really dissociated. Take a moment just to like kind of embrace it, be kind to it, know it was my brain trying to protect me, and then just get back to work or get back to my friends or whatever it was that I was doing. Um, then I would get back home after whatever I did that day, and a new wave of dread would always hit me. So I would always struggle the most in the early morning when I would just wake up, and then in the later evenings. And I would actually say that the later evening dread is something I struggled with for the longest. I even remember like not necessarily having DPDR anymore, like dissociation, or ne not necessarily having panic attacks anymore. However, I would still have evening dread. So I would come back home from studying or work, and if I'd be home alone, I just have this feeling of depression, dread of like reality of life hitting me in the face. And what I would do with that was I would just try to be with my family, with my friends. I would try to not, this is counterintuitive, but I would try to not feel good, as in I wouldn't force myself to feel good in the evening. I would just kind of let myself grieve and let myself just feel the dread and just say, well, it is what it is. There's no point in fighting it. So I would just really embrace that feeling and just be with my family and read a book or watch Netflix, watch shows, don't take myself too seriously. Don't go back into a whole obsessive spiral of listening to podcasts again. I think I would sometimes like after work go on a walk or something and then listen to another podcast or you know, I think realistically it wasn't like the most perfect decision, but I also feel em empathy for myself then, and I actually think it wasn't that bad because even though it might have been kind of compulsory, it did really bring me peace over time. And over time, I just had so many like concepts and theories, and I had so much more knowledge on mindfulness and, inner peace that I think it actually was a very healthy obsession for me at the time. And I would love myself a lot. So I wrote down self-love as well. I think self-love was really something I practiced a lot during that time, just letting myself cry if I had to, holding myself, embracing myself, letting myself watch my comfort shows, and just like being so loving and kind with myself because I understood I was going through a hard time. And I always tell my clients as well, like 50% of the suffering comes from the suffering itself, but 50% of the suffering comes from not feeling held in suffering. Like when you look at a child who's in pain, the moment the child is held in that pain, the moment the child is loved in that pain, a lot of that pain actually just feels so much better already. So I would just hold myself, love myself, and really work on feeling safer with myself. And then I would go back to sleep. And the day after, same cycle would repeat. And it is not that every day looked the same. I also don't want you to just copy everything I just said because then it might come from a place of control rather than authentically doing what you feel is best for you. I would also spend a lot of time in nature, very, very much time in nature. Any moment I would have, I would go into nature. I would both be triggered and be amazed at the same time because nature can be very triggering. I remember just like laying down, looking at the stars and having half of a panic attack, half of just feeling like I was in a Disney film and having so much wonder for life. And I would just embrace the both of them. Um, and so I think, yeah, spending time in nature helped me so much to feel more connected to life again, to embrace the natural chaos of life, the unknown, the mystery of it. Um, so yeah, I don't want you to copy this. I don't want you to now go, okay, I'm gonna do exactly what Robin did. Of course, you're allowed, but if you end up taking some of these things or like taking that with you, try to really just come at it from a place of love and not from a place of fear, if that makes sense. Let me think if there's anything else. I would say the biggest tip as well is just don't live your life too differently than you used to live it before. Um, just keep on showing yourself that this is just a rough patch you're going through, and you don't have to alter your entire life just because you're struggling. Of course, sometimes you can alter things, and I think if I would be in university in the midst of it, it would have been a bit of a difficult situation. Um, but yeah, I hope you guys got something from this video. I'm really, really looking forward to sharing some of my journaling prompts with you guys next week. I think I will cry a lot, probably, considering I already cried in the beginning of this video. Like I said, if you want to share some topics with me in my story, feel free to post them there. And I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Have a beautiful day and see you soon.